Hey there. So the other day I watched the hate mob form up, much like they always do. And that day they decided to target Lee Weeks. Now Lee Weeks, he had did a terrible, terrible thing online too. He had pushed the follow button. I mean, can you imagine that? The audacity of someone pushing the follow button. Yep, when you go on Twitter and you see somebody that you want to actually, I don't know, follow, meaning you want to keep up with the conversation, you push that button. Well, essentially, it's not only pushing it, but apparently it's the same as following the KKK if diversity in comics is concerned. That sound crazy? Well, the whole conversation is. Now, interestingly, in this, Kirk Busiek actually decides that he is going to be the one to defend Lee Weeks within this. I was surprised by that because Kirk Busiek is normally a person right at the head of the mob. Not only that, but sooner or later, having that wrong thing, that'll get them to turn on you. You start saying that you like the wrong people out there, and well, Kurt, they're going to charge that Frankenstein monster that is Kurt Busiek as well. They'll burn all the wrong things. So you got to be careful with that stuff. But then again, Kurt, he thinks that his ego can shield him from all. But anyhow, this conversation starts off with a cosplayer talking about racists and on. You know, the kind of stuff that you normally see out there. What I find interesting about that is this cosplayer has never really done anything. They have never had any success. But now, if you rail on the right people, you know, the right type of consumers, well, you can get shared by people like Kurt Busiek and on. So, of course, this person continually does it. That's why I'm not showing their tweet here, because they don't need the attention. They actually are irrelevant within the conversation. But somebody picks that up, and they tweet this message along with it. Now, I would show you that message in its original, but this person has decided to protect their tweets, because Bounding into Comics decided to point this out, which I thought was kind of funny. But they said this: what do you think, Tom King and Jim Lee? Can we take a stand against Comicsgate and its supporters against hate speech and discrimination? I'll bet Jerry Conway, Greg Rucka, and Kurt Busiek can show you how it's done. Now, a funny thing within this, Jim Lee being tagged in. Now, I thought that Comicsgate only liked white males, but just like Christopher Priest, Jim Lee is one of those people that is actually respected by almost everyone. He doesn't fit the white male standard, but what he does fit within that is he fits the thing that people in Comicsgate actually want. Someone that can create a good product and someone that acts like a professional. So wow, way to blow up your own narrative. And then to show these people as your quote-unquote good guys, Jerry Conway, I mean, this guy goes out and calls people alt-Rikers because of the way that they vote. Continually acts just like Busiek does. I mean, Busiek acts reprehensible out there. Greg Rucka, same kind of interaction. Also a blockbotter now too. You know, it's funny when he blockbots the wrong person, he blames it on, I had an accident within this. But of course, the only people that's an accident toward are people that are again in the right thing crowd. Now, when Kurt Busiek was tagged into this, he said, well, since I got tagged into this, I'll say that how it's done as far as I'm concerned isn't by trying to chase Lee Weeks out of the industry because you think you like someone you think is a bully. I like Lee Weeks. I'd work with him in a heartbeat. Does that mean I'm a friend of someone who's a friend of someone you think is a bad person and therefore I should be shunned too? If so, shun away. But I like lots of people and want lots of voices and approaches and styles in comics. It's the people who seem to want everything done one way that gets my back up. Yeah, funny considering this guy is also pro-blockbotting. He's also pro the hate crowd out there that will do anything to silence and censure. These people cannot understand that what people talk about as far as no politics in comic books, they're not saying don't have broad themes. They're saying when I see Batman talking about Sean Hannity, maybe that's a little bit too far. Maybe seeing someone turn Trump into an actual comic villain, maybe that doesn't have a place here. Maybe assuming identity politics and adding it it to something where it goes outside of the United States and it doesn't resonate, you see it in the sales there, maybe that's a bridge too far. But then again, can't talk about that kind of stuff. So here comes this guy back in. Thanks for your response, Kurt, and I'm sorry that my comment apparently lacks some context. I don't think anyone should be chased out of the industry, but I do think people in all walks of life should be held accountable when they appear to support bigots. So he's saying that the guy clicking the follow button is supporting bigots. Isn't that amazing? Trying to get comic book sales, actually treating certain people with dignity and respect. Those people that spend money. Nope, can't have that. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the individual behind diversity in comics, but let's make no mistake, he is a bigot. There are good people on both sides situation. There is no public viewpoint DNC has taken that the opposite side could benefit from hearing. Oh, you mean the fact that the quality of products has actually diminished? The fact that when we're talking about equality, you can't actually talk about certain people out there without being hit with a label like marginalized. When you talk about the quality of said products, you mean the fact that people would go out and call, like, say, people of color, their word, Uncle Tom's, if they don't agree with their narrative? I think there's plenty of things to discuss here. It's just that you're blind to it because you want to see people out there as bigots or the opposition or on. And this, well, it continues on and it gets really, really interesting when you get into this here. I think he's a bigot too. I think Lee Weeks is a nice guy and a terrific comic artist. Trying to treat Lee like you want Richard Meyer treated is where you lose me. I don't follow Meyer, but I won't march in any kick out the talent parade. Oh, you seem pretty good though at staying silent when people want to rail on specific talent. You only just now stood up. When John Malin was being attacked, hey, are you okay with that? Silence, complicity within that. The Brightwisers, hey, silence, complicity within that. EVS and so on. That stuff is A-okay, but Lee Weeks, for some reason, is a bridge too far for you. Very telling within that. But continuing here. I'm sure he's a great guy. In fact, for all I know, he may not even be aware of the extent of DNC's conduct. I hope that's the case. The message I want to convey, and it seems I've done a poor job of that. You like how this guy just continually sucks up to Kurt Busiek? You're lucky you got one of those, Kurt. You're lucky you didn't get somebody within the hate mob that actually wanted to expel you from the fold. Because if you did, well, you would have been gone bye-bye. You would have been one of those people they would have been calling for a job from too. You would have been either issuing a public apology or you would have been seeing people try to set fire to your career. That's the kind of people that you are running with. When people ask for decency, when they ask for standard fair decorum, good products, you act like this. These are the kind of people you've been courting. Way to go within that, Kurt. But continuing here is that everyone should know what DNC stands for. If we see someone following DNC, we have a responsibility to point it out and to educate, just like we would if we saw someone following the KKK. I mean, look at that statement there. It's really interesting, too, how these people court actual racists. They won't call them out. People on their side because of current year, that current year rhetoric where you can get away with being a racist or a sexist or attack people because of their identity or the way they vote or on, won't call them out, but somehow talking about this stuff, being a comic book critic and saying a few no-no words that you don't like, well, that's basically being the KKK in this day. But then again, when I see someone that's associated with, say, an Oni Press, that's actually one of their higher-ups saying that the MAGA hat is the KKK hood of the 21st century, I think that says a lot. But continuing here, is a comic pro going to listen to me, an anonymous Twitter user? Probably not, nor should they necessarily. But they'll listen to their peers, to fellow experts in their profession who they know and respect. That was my intention adding you. You're a good person and worthy role model. I hope I haven't offended your sensibilities too greatly. Again, you see all the sucking up within this. You are really lucky you got one of these on the hook. book. But yeah, they want you to basically join the party, much like when they started out here. They wanted you to join in the party and with Tom King and with Jim Lee, and to run out the wrong thinkers. That's the type of thinking that you have associated yourself with. I think it's amazing when you get down to that. Here's another person joining in. There's also the fact that Lee Weeks follows these guys, Evidence, promoting Red Rooster, following DNC, Ben Shapiro, Dana Lash, Jordan Peterson, Tucker Carlson. I tried to persuade him, but it's no use. The only right-wing thing Weeks retweeted was Red Rooster art, so I don't think he follows all those right-wing pundits. So the only right-wing thing that he retweeted, Red Rooster fan art, is right-wing now. I mean, really, imagine that. Because Mitch Breitweiser decided he would go out and he would draw a picture that said, I hope Trump does well with all Americans. Now all of that is, of course, right-wing, and you can see how they're trying to put all of this together. Got to write him out on a rail, but man, what a mess. I don't want to take this out on Kurt. It's not his fault. It's not, but the position he's taken is profoundly disappointing. Silence is complicity. Looking the other way is complicity. I know he didn't start this hate movement, but he and other comic creators in this position have the ability to take a stand against it. That's why I tagged him in the first place, Then he goes off, of course, saying, I'm not part of that. I've been taking my stand there. I don't think beating up on Lee Weeks is the way to do it, but that doesn't somehow mean I haven't been pretty critical of Comicsgate. Yeah, because this guy, of course, he is such a good guy out there. And you can see him, continue this, and you can see the blowback received, but of course with the blowback received, doesn't really matter, does it? And again, and again, and again, you see this kind of stuff. You see him trying to talk about, well, if we're going to drive this guy out, who next? This is exactly what people have been saying for a while there. Driving people out, trying to cost them their jobs. That's not the optic you want. Of course, that's the optic you get down to when assholes out there want to label and disparage and malign comic consumers. When those people come after comic book consumers, people that are spending hundreds of dollars a week, the industry itself should police that. They should be saying, hey, maybe this isn't the way that you want to go. But of course, bringing that up, that's somehow conflated to the same thing that these hate mobs do. I also saw a few exchanges I thought were interesting within this, like this, for example, from Spike. I have to give this kudos, so I want to throw this in there. There's a lot of token hires with no previous comic book experience. Brainiac, that's nepotism. And we are not people of color like stupid Power Rangers, just individuals like anyone else. I'm the only Mexican writer Marvel has hired and Comicsgate supporter. Narrative destroyed. Of course, Kurt can't have that there. At this point, I think my part in the conversation is done. So while I wouldn't want to stop anyone else from conversing, can you please untag me? Thanks. You can mute a conversation, but of course, you have people that go out there that tweet all the time. They have to come in and show their disappointment with you by saying, take me out of the conversation. No, take yourself out of the conversation, because of course you just got handed your narrative. But the final part of that, I guess you only like token people of color who parrot your mediocre narrative, huh? You racist POS. I love that within that. I thought that really destroyed this idea of what is being parroted within here, saying that of course all of those people, they're terrible wrong thinkers out there because of course they want something. And in fact, that Kurt Busiek is more than happy to go and target people on an individual basis or tens of thousands of people. He's more than willing to boil them down to this one word, comics gators or gators, and go out and slander and defame them unless for some reason he likes someone. It's amazing when you look at what they're saying because they don't want this turned on themselves. They don't want this turned on people that they know specifically, but they're part of the problem. They are part of this issue that has been going on. And interestingly, I thought I might actually see a hate mob turn on Kurt Busiek and eat him up. And one day it'll happen. One day his ego will actually get him in trouble with the right thinker crowd, because there is no way that you can go out and you can capitulate to demands, even if you go in and you have people that kowtow to you constantly like this. One day you'll do something, and one day they'll try to burn down your career too, just like they tried to do Lee Weeks within that. Are you prepared for that? Are you really a supporter of that kind of narrative? I personally think you are, but only when it suits you. I think that you're one of those people who, of course, within it, cannot look internally and see what type of just horrible stuff that you've been supporting for really over a year now at least. But anyhow, people, tell me what you think about this exchange. Don't you find that kind of interesting when you look at it? When you see him defending one person within that, saying, hey, we can't necessarily judge other people because they click the follow button. And yet, well, that's what blogbotting is. That is exactly what blogbotting is. And somehow, some way, that's okay. So, if you pull on one thread and you start pulling and pulling, well, it all unravels. And, well, Kurt Busiek, he did that on his own. But anyhow, tell me what you think about that. Thank you.